Hey, what's going on everybody? Benji Kaiser here today talking about the Dell G7. Now, is the Dell G7 right for you as a graphic designer? I'm a graphic designer. I've been in the industry for a little over a decade now. Got my bachelor's and my master's degree in graphic design, and now I'm actually working as a digital marketing manager. So I have a lot of experience with various computers from Windows to Mac, to desktop computers, to laptops. And so I want to come before you and talk about the Dell G7 today. This is a question I've gotten a few times on the channel, people asking me to review this computer, so that's coming at you right now. If you're curious about the exact model I'm talking about of the Dell G7, you can head down into the description below, grab a link to that computer that is an affiliate link, and if you use it, it will give me a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. And that's what keeps these videos coming out, and I really appreciate when y'all use those links. All right, so the thing I'm going to walk you through today is specifications. I'm going to walk you through usability, and I'm going to walk you through kind of user experience, what it'll be like to use this computer on the day-to-day. And the reason I think all three of these are important is because this isn't something that you're just going to use in one place. I think there's a lot of aspects of a computer that you should really think about. It's not just specs, it's not just screen quality, it's not just weight. It's kind of everything combined for your specific lifestyle. So the first thing I want to talk about is the ports on the side of the computer. This is something that I feel people overlook, and it can kind of come back to bite them in the end. If they really don't think through that, check out the ports and see if it's what they need. So the ports on the side of the Dell G7 are the HDMI, USB, USB-C, SD card slot, as well as a headphone jack. To me, this is a well-equipped computer for graphic design because for myself, I'm constantly using dual screens with the HDMI port. I import my videos for YouTube with the SD card slot. I transfer files between computers and between colleagues with the USB thumb drives. And then the USB-C is just great for faster speeds as far as bringing in tools like external hard drives, maybe importing directly from a camera, etc. So you have everything you need right there. Now the second thing I want to talk about is screen quality. This is a full HD screen. It's not going to be as monstrous and as high quality as say a 4K screen, and it's not going to be up to the par of a Retina screen, but the quality of the screen is very good. So I think a lot of times when I was coming up in the industry, I really frowned upon Windows for their screen quality, and they've made substantial upgrades over the past 5 to 10 years from when I first got started. And so I think this screen is a very good fit for graphic design. Now, I know people are going to ask me about color accuracy, and I don't think this screen is going to be the most color accurate screen. So as far as screens are concerned, I kind of want to break down how color accuracy works. And so you understand really what you're getting when you buy a laptop and you're trying to get as much color accuracy as possible. Screens are RGB based, whereas when you print something, it's CMYK. So what you see on the screen and what you print are automatically going to be slightly different because of the profile in which you're viewing the content. Now, if you go straight from screen to screen, as in web or video or photos, etc., online, it's going to be far more color accurate, but you cannot expect 100% perfection going from screen to print. They're two very different color profiles. The next thing I want to talk about is usability. The battery life on this computer is pretty good. It's about 5 hours and 45 minutes using it, as a serious user. Now, if you're just kind of letting it sit there and maybe lightly surfing the internet, it could last a little bit longer, but it doesn't have the most incredible battery life. If you're looking for a really good battery life computer, something like the Gigabyte Aero 15 has it's rated for like 10 hours, so using it for graphic design, maybe 8-ish hours, which is really good. But the Dell G7, looking at about 5 hours and 45 minutes for the battery life. This computer has a bit of a thicker profile, so compared to like a MacBook Pro or a Dell XPS 15, it's going to be a little bit thicker, but I'm going to talk about why that could be a really good benefit for you later in the video, so you're going to want to stick around for that. But just think about it when you're getting around town, when you're using this computer, either as a student or a professional, going to meetings, going to classes, whatever it may be. It'll be a little bit heavier, but like I said, there could be a benefit for you. Okay, so now let's jump into the specifications of this computer. This computer has 16 gigs of RAM, which is great for graphic designers because that is my recommendation for jumping into a graphic design computer. 16 gigs of RAM is a fantastic kickoff point. So the reason for the RAM is that you are running all of your programs and your applications on the RAM memory. That's what it takes to run them. So every time you open an application, it pulls from your RAM memory. The more RAM memory you have, the faster your computer will run with more programs open. I remember back in the day, I used to have 8 gigs of RAM on my MacBook Pro. Now, this was good, but I could only run 1, maybe 2 programs at a time before my computer would get extremely slow, especially Photoshop. Photoshop is one of those programs that just sucks a ton of power. So 16 gigs of RAM is a great kickoff point. I personally like to run 32 gigs of RAM. That way I make sure I have a substantial amount of RAM memory to run the programs I use. I mean, with my 32 gigs of RAM, I can run Premiere Pro, Photoshop, InDesign, and upload a video to YouTube all at the same time. So I like having that 32 gigs of RAM. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the 8th generation i7 processor that comes in the Dell G7. That's current, that's the latest generation of the i7, so you're in good hands there. And combined with 16 gigs of RAM, it's a really good, powerful machine. Back when I first got started into graphic design, I was using the i5 processor, and like I said, it's good, but as the programs get more robust, thinking Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, you're gonna wanna have more power to run those programs. And so the i7 is that power you need. All right, moving forward into the GPU, and this is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying that thicker body could be a benefit to you. So with the GPU, you're running a GTX 1060 Max Q in the Dell G7. And what you'll find is if you really start to do some big, heavy lifting as far as video editing, Photoshop work, or combining all the programs at the same time, which pulls away from the RAM and also really starts to get your processor heating up, you're gonna want some space for the fan to kick on. And especially if you're doing video editing, as that GPU starts to boost up, you're gonna want some space for that fan to cool the computer down. And so the Dell G7 is really great for that because it has a thicker body. There's more air movement that can happen. I have a Dell XPS 15 right here. And the thing that I find with the Dell XPS 15 is it's so thin that it does get warmer and the fan does run a little harder to really try and cool it down because there's just not a lot of ability to get airflow through those components, through those parts. And so that's the thing that you're gonna have such a big benefit with the Dell G7 is a thicker body will give you more air movement, cool your computer faster. So it's a trade-off, but I think it could be worth it depending on what you're doing. So normally when I'm recommending computers, I like to see the GTX 1050 graphics processing unit. The reason being is I'm seeing so much in the graphic design industry a bend towards motion design, video editing, and just graphic designers being able to do either a light amount or a substantial amount of that sort of work. And so the reason I like to recommend the GTX 1050 is because it's a great standard being able to do video editing and motion design. This computer coming with the GTX 1060 Max Q is extremely well equipped. You're looking right now at the GPU benchmarks that I pulled in for this video, and as you see, it's 50% better roughly on each benchmark test. And so it's gonna have what I expect and more out of a computer for those abilities. And that's a really great benefit to the Dell G7. All right, so the last thing in the specifications is the solid state hard drive. The Dell G7 comes with a 256 gig solid state hard drive, and this is really good for 2 reasons: performance and reliability. So I think solid state hard drives have made basically a full takeover of the market. I found a few computers here and there that do have HDD hard disk drives, but I always recommend solid state hard drives. Reliability, so there's no moving parts in a solid state hard drive versus the hard disk drive, which basically has an arm and an eye that reads the information off of the disk. That will wear out much faster than the solid state hard drive, which has no moving parts. I was reading in a blog the other day and they were saying that your data on your solid state hard drive could actually outlast you. I mean, it could be on there for 200 years. So it'll be there far past when you and I are here. So it's just really interesting. The switch to solid state is very, very important for protecting your files, for protecting your data. Now, as far as performance is concerned, this is the way I like to look at it. Let's say I want to know what the word outrageous means. And so there's a thesaurus on my bookshelf. I get up, I grab a thesaurus, come down, I look through for outrageous, I find it, and it gives me the description. Versus me pulling out my iPhone and searching outrageous definition. So manual labor and searching versus automated, no moving parts, just hit the button, it's right there. So that's really the difference in performance. So this will make your applications load faster and your computer boot faster as well. So that's a really big benefit to being a graphic designer, having quick load times, quick save times, and faster program opens. Dell G7, is this a computer you would consider or not consider? Just give me a yes or a no down in the comments below. I'm just curious about what people are thinking about the Dell G7, if you think it's a good graphic designer computer for your needs. And I just am wanting to get the conversation going. If you have any questions or concerns, post those down there as well. If I missed anything, if you feel like, man, you just really missed this one thing, add some value to the community. Please comment below and give people the insight that they need to make a good buying decision. I mean, that's why I post these videos, is I want to inform you on getting the best gear for your graphic design needs. I'm Benji Kaiser of BenjiKaiser.com. Don't forget about the link below the video for the Dell G7, and I will see you here on the next episode.